How do you build a team that cares as much about the bottom line as you do? That's the million-dollar question for every business owner. And today we have the answer. It's not just about a paycheck, it's about making everyone a partner in the company's success. Our guest is Rob Gallaher, the author of the new book, Profit Sharing: The Power of Shared Success. Rob dives deep into why simply giving bonuses doesn't work and how true, transparent profit sharing is the key to creating a truly loyal and engaged workforce. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Lorica, thank you for having me on.
Of course, we're very excited to speak about this. I think this is a topic that's very close to my heart. But before we dive into all that detail, please tell us something that might surprise people about you.
I have 8 children. That's usually my go-to shocker statement. Yeah.
Okay, yes, you've shocked me. You've done. Are they all girls or boys, split evenly down the
Or
middle?
split evenly down the middle.
Wow, that's actually quite unlikely, but maybe it's a numbers game.
Yeah, we just got what we were given, and that's what it ended up to be. 4 and 4.
That's amazing. I think it's nice coming from a big family. I really enjoyed growing up, and we're only three siblings, but three seemed like a lot at the time.
Yeah, 3 is still a lot. I think 3 children, at least for us, was the hardest part of parenting because you're outnumbered. Or and
Ganging up against each other.
right, and
You were
you.
split. And
Yeah. And then they're still young, right? Like, they're not taking out the garbage yet or helping out around the house. They need all your attention. But I think after 4 and 5, the oldest starts to help, and so then the scales start getting tipped
yeah.
a little bit. But 3 was definitely the hardest.
Okay, well, I will tell my parents that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to the hardest point and then stopped.
Might be why my grandparents have four children. I will check on that the next time
Yeah.
I see it.
Ask them about that.
Yeah. This is actually such a nice intro to the topic though, because in a big family, sharing is really important. So was it the family that led you to believe that profit sharing isn't just a good idea, but could actually be very powerful? Or how did this idea come about? And why did you write this book?
Well, actually, I think it came about when I was a child. I still am, the oldest of 11 children.
Okay.
And one of the stories I tell is that my mom it'd be a Saturday morning and we're all home and we're watching cartoons or we're making a mess out of the living room. And my mom would say something like, if you guys get your chores done, you can go swimming. We had a pool in the backyard, and, the chore would be clean the whole house, right? And that's what she would say, clean the whole house and you can go swimming.
Mm.
And we figured out, and I'm the oldest, I'm the leader, natural born leader. No one elected me. So, and I would be like, hey, if we all work together and divvy up, who does what rooms, who does the kitchen, who's going to do the bathrooms, who's going to do the living room and such forth, that we could get it done faster.
Mm.
And the profit sharing of getting it done faster together would mean we can get into the pool sooner. And the sooner we got into the pool, the more time we got in there before it was dinner time or whatever the next activity was for that weekend. And so that's what kind of got it started. I think just from a leadership standpoint, I got a lot of experience dealing with different personalities.
Mm.
And we all know if you have siblings, that can be a challenge because the dynamic, I wasn't signing any paychecks back then, right? I didn't have that paycheck authority or that positional authority. I I had to use influence and a reward to motivate my siblings to get this chore done. Because I wanted to get in the pool or I wanted to go play or do whatever the reward that my mother offered us. So I think it started for me at that young of an age and seeing the benefit of that rallying cry of, hey, if we all do this together, we're going to get X,
Mm.
or we'll get more of X activity or more of this reward. My mom would use stuff like, hey, I don't know if she was doing this on purpose, but if we can do all this together, or if all the homework is done or schoolwork was done, then we'll go get ice cream or we'll go to the library. And we love going to the library. because my mom would set us free and we can go look at any books we wanted and do. This is back before the internet, right? So as a young kid, there's a lot of questions about the world out there that we didn't have access to like we do now. So going to the library was that access and that kind of reward for doing some research or homework on something that we wanted to learn about.
Oh, that makes complete sense. I like the idea of creating the goal congruency like between the siblings. It's not something that's very easy to do. Get
No, yeah.
even people on the same page. It's hard even if you share genes. I think sometimes that's even harder because you didn't choose how they were, right?
In my experience, it's 100% harder when you're related for some reason. So I've had siblings work for me
Yeah.
and which can create some beautiful dynamics and a bond and a common goal of the company succeeding for these reasons that we help my parents and but I can also see how there are some opinions in there where in some friction caused because of that closeness, right? And because of that knowledge of each other. So, in my experience overall, though, I think it's been a good thing, and I've been able to navigate those relationships for a common good.
Hmm. Well, that's ultimately the goal. But I mean, navigating those relationships, how does essentially sharing the power of the success, as you call it, the power of shared success. How does changing that change the relationship between the employee and the employer? Does it become better, worse, different?
Well, I think most bosses will say, in parentheses, they crack a whip and they push, right, your team members or your employees.
Mm,
And I think when you shift from that, from one person, the guy that's signing the check, has this agenda, right? He has or her their goals, their ideas, and their plan.
mm,
And when you take that dynamic and shift it to a common plan or common goals, where you can get the team together and be like, what are our goals? If you think about goal setting, not to get off topic here, but good organizations will sit down and have some quarterly goals or monthly goals or even down to weekly or daily goals.
mm,
And when you do that together, instead of just, me walking into the room and being like, this is our quarterly goal. This is what we need to do this month to get there. And then I lead that and spell that out for them without them having any say or buy-in. There's a huge shift when you get that buy-in and it becomes the team's goals, right?
mm,
So now everybody came up with those goals together. They're personally vested, interested in it. They take more ownership of it, and they're going to be more likely to hit those goals. Okay, number one. And then you add into that this financial incentive to a goal that they already have ownership of, and it creates a win-win for
mm,
them, for me, and then you create buy-in in multiple different ways.
mm. I get what you're saying. I want to speak a little bit about that because, I mean, in our world, most companies might offer bonuses or stock options or something like that, maybe shares down the line and not just a share option. But why do you think pure profit sharing is actually more effective? And how do you structure that? And how is it different from, for example, a dividend paid to a shareholder?
Okay, great question. And this is really important. This is like the meat and potatoes of the whole idea. So I am in San Jose, California, which is often called Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
We are in the heartbeat of tech companies. We are where Apple started, Google right up the road from us. All these large, Adobe is our downtown. They have two massive buildings downtown here. All these tech companies that do some type of stock options
Mm.
to people. IBM is 15 minutes down the road. I actually had the pleasure of working for IBM employee, I believe number 27, and he started there as a forklift driver
Wow.
and then was there for a very long career and became logistics manager or director of logistics, but started out, he was the first guy to drive forklifts around. And when you bring up these stock options, right? I hear this. I have friends that work for these companies, their spouses work for these companies, and they'll say that. They're very proud of that. Oh, I'm going to get X amount of stock, or I'm moving to this startup and I'll be number 8 there. And so that means I'll get this large percentage of stock or options in the future. Couple problems with that. A lot of these companies don't ever become the Google or the IBM, right? So this is not a guaranteed thing. This is a long-term away goal in the sky that may or may not happen. I can't tell you how many buildings. My assistant was at a company that went under, and they lost a certain contract, and there were people there with options and stocks that were absolutely worth nothing, right? And these people were working really hard, and they were successful in their role in that organization, but it didn't pan out for whatever reason. So I do see motivation coming from those, but it's more of a gamble than a guarantee. Okay. The profit sharing that I teach business owners to do is a monthly profit sharing. And because I see also in corporate America, a huge emphasis on quarterly profit sharing. And then even a lot of companies will still be on the Christmas bonus type system, a once a year. So those are the most two common things that I see. And that's what I used to do was a Christmas bonus type thing. And we would look at our financials every year, and it essentially was a profit sharing. The better the company did, the more the Christmas bonuses were. So the problem with that is that as your average human being on this planet, and the way the financial system's set up in the entire world, as far as I know, everybody's bills, everybody's living expenses are based on the month. So why are we giving someone a couple $1,000 quarterly bonus when in April for the first quarter of the year, when we had January bills, February bills, and March bills, and then this bonus shows up that doesn't affect what I call our monthly financial needle, right? Every month we have a gas tank, just like in a car. And when we get our direct deposit, because there's not real paychecks anymore, that needle fills up. Right. And then our goal is to drive that car all month long before we hit E. Right. And when you're not affecting that monthly needle, you're not affecting that team member's daily activities and daily thoughts. Right. If, nobody is motivated by the Christmas bonus in March. Nobody, you're not, right? Everybody thinks about the Christmas bonus after Halloween. Right? Okay. How's my boss doing? Are they happy with me? Okay. Am I how did I do this year? Because there's this check that's going to show up, this mysterious check that's going to show up around Christmas time. And obviously I want it to be as big as possible. And I should probably think about my attitude in the office, or my numbers, or what's going on, to make sure that when they are sitting down with that spreadsheet, that number is, I'm going to come to them in a positive light, and they're going to think about me in a good way, and they're going to want to reward me for that. But was I thinking about that in June or February? No, I was not. I was just thinking about clocking in, not getting in trouble, doing the bare minimum I had to do to keep my job, and then go home as soon as I could. So when I shifted to a monthly profit sharing, I saw a big shift in my team members' attitude every day. And excuse me, I saw them actually doing things during the day above and beyond what they would normally do to either improve themselves or to help the team members, and ultimately help the whole organization win, to make that profit sharing check on a monthly basis as big as possible, because that really affected their monthly financial needle.
Oh, I love what you're saying. It speaks to that concept of object permanence, right? If you have a paper on your dining room table and you know that you should complete the form and send it back, but now it's been there for 2 weeks, you can't even see it anymore. It's just there. And a Christmas bonus is sort of similar, or quarterly thing. It's just there. You're not really thinking about it. You're not focusing on it. But when you have a 4-week cycle where you get paid every 4 weeks for what you've done in that 4 weeks, you're immediately more motivated, more incentivized. You can see the fruits of your labor really quickly. And the other thing is, if you messed up or you had a really bad month, it's not penalizing you for an entire year. It's done, and then we try again in the next month. Because I'm assuming you see that too. You can actually have a bad month without it affecting your overall score because it'll just affect June or May or whatever.
Right, 100%. Some of our best profit sharing months have been after a bad month.
Okay.
And every month when we hit profit sharing, there's a meeting, right? And I don't direct deposit the profit sharing. I actually give them a physical check because I want to, I'm trying to emphasize this extra money. It's not just this dollar amount that hits your bank account that you're not going to think about. I want to hand them something in their hand. I want to shake their hand. I want to congratulate them and thank them and remind them that this money came from their efforts. It didn't come from the season of Christmas or some corporate board that decided this is what they could give away, that this is something they actually had an influence on, that they had an effect on from their work that they've done in that 4-week time period.
Yeah. It feels like getting an allowance for chores when you were younger. It's that same thing. Your mum hands you the cash. You have the cash. You have so much almost spending power in that moment
Right.
as you've worked for this. You've cut the grass, you've done the dishes, and now this is your reward. It's the same concept. And it worked really well when you're young. I don't know why we stopped doing it.
Well,
I
yeah, it still works today
it
because
works for adults too.
yeah, well, it's just as human beings in general, we want to feel like we're providing value
Yes, 100%.
every day, right? The happiest human beings are those that are providing value, they're helping others, they feel like they're making a difference.
Mm,
And then when you tie that into additional compensation that actually makes your life better,
mm.
that's a really powerful thing that most companies I see, small or big businesses all over the world are missing they're missing the boat on that.
Mm. No, absolutely. You spoke about how you guys have a meeting after, and I want to speak about that meeting where you promote transparency and explain what happened. But what do you think is the most important decision that you make or need to make as a business owner when you design a profit sharing program? How do you decide who gets what share of the product? Ach, the
Yeah,
profits. Pardon.
that's a great question. People ask me this all the time because there's lots of ways that you can do this, and the way that I teach in my program and in the book is the people that on your team that actually affect profit the most. Like everybody in the organization is there, obviously, because they're helping the company move forward, right? So the example I'll use in let's say my plumbing company, for example, my plumbers, they're the heartbeat of the organization, 100%.
Yeah.
And this brings up, I mean, we could talk about this for 5 hours, but just to get, to the business owners listening, just to get an idea of the thought process here is a plumber doesn't make decisions every day that, you tell them where to go.
Yeah.
You tell them what they got to do when they get there and when to be there, right? They have the skills to do it. They have the tools and the equipment. And the best ran operations are making sure that all those pieces are there.
Mm.
That plumber is doing his job and they're getting paid a competitive market wage for the services that they perform.
Mm.
They're not making decisions though every day that are going to really move the needle over a month's time on a company's financial P&Ls. Does that make sense?
100%.
Right. And if you take the plumber example, and I know there's going to be plumbers listening to this and be like, well, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. And I've heard all the arguments, right? And I've had discussions with my own guys. But let's take the dispatcher, for example, or the estimator, for example, in that same company. The decisions that they're making every day, as far as, a dispatcher is dispatching, in our case, 26 plus plumbers every day, right? And they're making decisions on the routing for different plumbers and which plumbers are going to do this job and where their strengths and weaknesses are, and getting the material there on time and communicating the customer when something changes. There's a lot of decisions and activity that dispatcher is making that have a much bigger influence on the profit for that day or for that activity, right? So in the book, we talk about creating the acid test for who gets profit sharing that we use is we call the decision makers, and we call them DMs. So in each organization that I operate, in all the organizations that I teach, is that owner has to sit down and decide who are the decision makers on your team that affect profit sharing every single day. Like when your dispatcher makes a big mistake, that's going to affect profit sharing, right? When one of your plumbers makes a mistake, it's probably not going to affect profit sharing that month as much as your manager will or an estimator will and the dispatcher. So we sit down and we come up with that group of people. And that's who gets ultimately the profit sharing, the ones that are making the decisions that affect the long outcome of net profit on that month.
Yeah. The words really resonate with me because I think that is something we get very wrong in business. We tend to pay the people we can see instead of paying the people who are those decision makers, as you were saying. A lot of decision makers don't seem very important, if that makes sense. If you look at them at
Yeah.
face value, and I'm sure you've had a lot of discussions with companies you coach and work with where it actually came out that who they thought were the decision makers and who they thought were important initially or upfront, after the discussion, they weren't the same people anymore. They discovered, but as you said, the dispatcher is actually way more important, and we can lose a lot of money or make a lot of money depending on what the dispatcher does and not what the plumber does. Use your
Right.
example.
Yeah, 100%. If the dispatcher does their job well and puts the right plumber on the right job, then
Mm.
that takes a lot of the work out for that plumber. If the right decisions are made from the decision-making group, and it's typically leadership, right? These are typically leadership roles, but not always leadership roles, right? Years ago, I had a bookkeeper who led a small team in our back office, and she would argue with me that she wanted profit sharing. And, and she was a great employee, a great team member, smart, and was helpful to our organization moving forward. But at the end of the day, she did not make any decisions that affected profit. And this is a hot topic. Like, we're going to get comments about this, and you still need that bookkeeper. Absolutely, you need a good bookkeeper, and you need an honest one. But there's a lot of good, honest bookkeepers out there, and they have to do their job. And we're paying them very competitively, right? We're not trying to pull fast ones and underpay people. And this is not a commission with a small base, salary program where people can end up short some months or a lot of months. This is a program that rewards the people on your team that make the decisions that help it win moving forward. And so that's how you figure out who your decision makers are.
Oh. But to that point, in your organization, now you've decided that we're doing profit sharing, we've identified the decision makers. Do you not have a lot of upset people? How do you deal with that and ensure that it's still fair and transparent and that everyone is on the same page and you don't have those disgruntled staff members who suddenly become really, really unhappy with the fact that they can't share in the profit or that they are not allowed to make decisions, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that hasn't, to be honest, been a big issue
Okay.
because, say for example, one of my carpenters comes to me and was like, "Hey, I just heard that estimator gets profit sharing here when every month when the company does well, and how do I get part of that?" Well, the first thing is, if you're an estimator and a project manager making those decisions and you have that experience and you're really good at your job and you're very successful, you too can get profit sharing. It would be the first thing that I would say. Profit sharing is a perk, or it's sharing of the profits to people that affect the profit the most. And then I'll be like, with all due respect, you're a great carpenter and you've been on my team for 5 years, and I'm super glad that you're here, and you're here because I pay you very well. And you probably couldn't go somewhere else to get the same pay and perks and tenure that you have here. But there are other carpenters out there that can do your job, right? And you're not making decisions major decisions every day that are really affecting the bottom line. And we're huge on promoting from within. So if somebody gets ultra focused on this profit sharing idea, then I can help them, get them on the path to becoming into a role where they would make become part of a decision-making team and get profit sharing on our company. Does that make sense?
Yep,
So
100%.
that's the first thing that I would do to diffuse this, especially if they come in and they're upset, or if they're usually not upset. They're usually curious and have questions about it, and just want to be like, hey, how do I get part of that? Well, this is how you do it. And then what happens a lot of times is, especially when it comes to like to the trades people, they like their job. They're like, oh, I don't want to sit in an office all day. I'm good. Like I want to plumb. I want to hang sheetrock. That's what I'm good at. And then they don't really pursue it after that.
But if they were to move, as you said, you like promoting internally, then this person will already have the ambition and the drive to get that specific job that they are now applying for and putting themselves forward for done
Mhm.
and do it really, really well because they're already motivated by what they saw and maybe they want to make a change from where they are. And you allow that change because you know them, you trust them, you train them, they've worked for you for a long time. It actually makes sense, complete sense.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
all
100%.
because they're
I've
already
actually
in the organization.
yeah, I've actually tried to promote more guys from the field
Mm.
into the office, into these type roles, because I see the talent and I see that they have the experience and the knowledge to do it. And
Mm.
I probably push it more than they want it. And so a lot of times it doesn't work out, where I had one guy that, I don't know, this was like 2 years ago. And I'm like, you need to be in the office, man. You speak to customers. You have this sales, you have this sales type swagger with you, and you're smart, and you know how to do, it was actually a concrete guy. You know how to do concrete and groundwork. Your next step is in the office.
Mm.
And they were like, oh, I don't know, and then I sold them on the job when
Mm.
I like made them do it basically. And they lasted 2 weeks and they were just like, I'm going crazy. Right. So, yeah, that's the kind of atmosphere that you want to have. Right. I think another point of important thing we should talk about too is, I would be, as the leaders, as the business owner, I would be worried about those that become ultra focused
Mm.
on profit sharing. Like
Mm.
if they're not in a current, decision making role, and then they just hound you, or they're just pushing you, and they're just aggressively coming after you for that. I would question what their motive truly was, because what doesn't work in a profit sharing program are the people that are selfish, right?
Yeah.
Profit sharing is based on a team's success. And when you get somebody in there that's all about profit and what they can get and what
Mm.
they're going to do, it doesn't work out well for the team. If that makes
Mm.
sense. I
Yeah.
quickly see where somebody like that can actually reduce profit, because now they're pushing, and they're not promoted the culture of teamwork, and they kind of destroy that teamwork function that was so successful, consistently getting profit sharing, because they're just like, how do we get more? They start running people over, and they're not doing it together, if that makes
Mm.
sense. In my experience, I would be worried of those people.
Makes complete sense. It's like when you have 11 children and one of them just wants to have the cake before they actually do the chores, and then they ruin it
Mhm.
for everybody because now we don't have enough cake to share, the chores aren't done, our mum is mad. It's the same concept. The dynamic gets disrupted and then you can't work towards this goal that we've set. So I completely understand that. And it's a very good point. You need to also be on the lookout for those type of people because they will always be with us, right? You can't
Right.
follow everyone else at the start. What would you say to people? Let's say you're in a growth stage, you're a startup, you're a small business, and you don't really know where to start. How can you start a profit sharing plan when you don't have a lot of profits?
Yeah, great question. So I teach that there's three things you need before you should consider a profit sharing program.
Mm-hmm.
Because Lorica, I can't, I can't count how many people have come to me, and they love the idea, right? And they're business owners and they're excited. They've read my book. They've listened to multiple podcasts, and they're like, this is what I need. This is going to be the magic sauce to fix my business. And then I'm like, okay, great. Let's sit down. Let's get on a call. Let's look at some financials.
Mm.
And their financials, number one, typically are a mess. They're not
Okay.
good, right? So they're driving a ship and they don't know the direction the wind's coming from. They don't know the temperature of the water. They don't know what the weather looks like tomorrow. And then, or they're just not making profit. So there's no profit to share. So those, I would say, so there's three things. You need to have a business that makes money.
Mm.
Okay. Obviously, you can't share a cookie that you don't have.
100%.
Number two is you need to be a leader,
Mm.
the business owner. And this is not the nuts and bolts that people want to hear, but I think every business owner out there needs to have this relentless self-pursuit of education.
Mm.
And I do it by books. I like to read. I've read many, many leadership books about all kinds of things to do with business. I'm just always, when I get up every morning, I want to be able to answer the question of, am I better today than I was yesterday? Right? Did I learn something yesterday? Did I improve something in my business yesterday? Or it could be even my marriage or even in my family, right? Something apart about Rob Gallaher every day has to be a little bit better than it was yesterday. In my opinion, every business owner needs to have this same mentality. And then the third thing that you need is accurate financials. And this is where a lot of business owners screw up. And this is where I screwed up too. Most business owners, let's say you're going to start a plumbing company or a tech company. You're a programmer or you're a plumber. And that's what you love. That's your passion, right? That's what you want to do every day. And you want to help people, but you're not an accountant. And the numbers, this is like the crappy part of being a business owner is you have to do things and know about things that you don't really care about, right? So yeah, right. Like I don't want to look at a P&L. I want to fix pipes, or I don't want to look at a P&L. I want to, or a balance sheet. I want to program this new app, right? Or this new idea. And so business owners have to be well-rounded. You don't have to be a CPA. You don't have to be a professional with this stuff, but you need to understand some basics that you could learn in a couple of weeks. And then you need to have the time to keep your eye on that ball. And then when you get to a certain size, when you can afford it, then you can hire a bookkeeper or an accountant, depending on your level, to help you do this. But in the early days, when you're starting out, you need to have a basic understanding, and you need to have a good system that's accurate, and then a basic understanding of what you're looking at. Because I see people over profit share, and I also see people under profit share, and both are very damaging.
That makes complete sense what you're saying. You want to hit that middle ground, but if you don't have good data, or rather, if you don't have good information, you're always going to sit with a garbage in, garbage out situation where you don't actually know what you're looking at. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you can't really be sure whether you're making money, despite the fact that you probably are, or maybe you aren't. And it just becomes a never-ending, very vicious circle of not knowing what's going on, not making money, then oversharing profits, it doesn't help anyone. But I mean, that's a great little, well, 3 piece of information, I think, to basically end our more formal part of the discussion. You need to make money and have profit. You can't share something that you don't have. You need to want to be better, because otherwise, how must you inspire people to be better? And you need to be multifaceted and understand what's going on in your business, despite the fact that it's not necessarily your main interest.
Yeah, 100%. And for the people out there that aren't, maybe they're struggling with their financials, then learn about financials. Read a book about it, right? Get on YouTube. I mean, these people these days have so much information out there for free. Get on YouTube, put down the Netflix, and learn about what a P&L is. Learn about what a balance sheet is. Learn about depreciation and all, learn about these things. And it's really not that hard. And you can do it relatively quickly, right? And there's a lot of great people on YouTube that can teach you about that, okay? But what about the flip side? I understand accounting. I'm a business owner. It's maybe my wife has experience with this and she took care of that and it's really good, but I'm not making a profit. Okay. Learn about business operations, learn about SOPs, learn about sales and marketing, like focus on that part that you need to get to a stage in your business where you are turning a consistent profit. And then you're going to be really close to having what you need to do a profit sharing system. And then you're going to really watch your business thrive and grow and explode.
I like that. It's very insightful. I'm going to definitely read the entire book and not just listen to the podcasts on it. Even though I don't have a business and I would probably always be too risk averse to start one, I think it is really good to learn these things. As you were, as you said, you like reading. I like reading too. So I'm very much looking forward to reading your book. And thank you so much for sharing everything.
Absolutely.
Now, for some rapid fire questions, that is generally such an interesting part of this podcast for me. I get so many good recommendations here. So I'm just going to ask you a few things and you just tell us the first thing that comes to mind. So, for example, the first one would be, what is one piece of software that you cannot live without?
Software?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I live and die by my Gmail calendar app.
Such a good answer. No one has ever said this, but yes. Why is that?
Well, I preach to my team that your calendar, I use it for to-do lists. I have all my kids' sporting events on there. I have all my meetings on there. And if I look at it probably 20 plus times a day to make sure I'm staying on track, every morning I look at it. One of the first things I do, what's going on today, refresh my memory. Every night I look at it, what's going on tomorrow. And I don't know if that's because I have a bad memory, probably, but it just keeps me on track. And it's really, everyone in our company, like their calendars are synced with mine. I can look at what they're doing. They can look at my calendar. And it's just something that if it went away, it would be a big change to my life. Probably the one I use the most.
Mm. Oh, that's great. It seems so simple, but it's a really important thing. And I think they did some pretty decent research on how you're more likely to do things if you actually schedule them. So if your calendar runs your life, you will be more productive and get more things done.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah. Also really good though, from a process management
Right.
perspective, for your own life is the process. And then what have you read recently? What book or what is the best book that you've read in the recent past? Or the best book that you've read ever? Also, fine.
The best book I have ever read that's probably had the biggest influence on my life by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I probably think about it every day, and I use things I've learned in that book every day in my life. So it's probably the most influential, but I'm a book reader and there's so much out there. Some of these books I read have so much in them that I'm like, I just need to pick one thing or two things out of this entire book and implement it a little bit. But that book by Dale Carnegie was huge. I
Yeah.
had my kids read it
Yeah.
and, we talk about it. And I'm like, you remember this chapter where it talks about this or this story? And I really want them to wrap their mind around that whole concept.
Mm. I also read it when I was still in school, and I think the one of the things that have just stuck with me is that you are winning the friends. You're not making friends, you're not manipulating them, you're actually winning them, and it creates this very lovely environment. When you just hear the title, it could seem like this is a guide to manipulation, but it's
Yes.
absolutely not. And I find it so almost comforting that the same principles almost 100 years later are just as relevant. Humans don't inherently change. We want community, we want to understand, we want that. Yeah, so great read and really good
Yeah.
that the kids are reading it too. It helped me a lot in my life.
Yeah. My favorite part of the book is never criticize anyone.
Mm.
And that is really hard to do, right? Like just think about as a business owner, like I have to guide people and correct them. And so I run across challenge and I'm not perfect, right? I'm not, not saying I have this mastered, but it really helps me. Okay, well, I'm criticizing the behavior,
Mm.
not the person, right? And it's the same thing with your kids and it's and your spouse too, right? We all know marriages can be challenging and you get on each other's nerves, but you're always remember that you're trying to fix the behavior, not that person, right? In the situation. So that's probably my biggest takeaway that I think about every day. But there's so much in that book. If you have not read that book and you're listening to this right now, you need to start.
Yeah. Completely agree. I'm going to go get it from my shelf and read it again. I think.
Yeah, read again. I've read it 3 times, and every time I've read it, I've gotten more out of it.
Mm. Yeah, no, 100%. It's been 15 years for me, so it's time for a reread.
Yeah, I would agree.
And then to just wrap up, if there is one thing that you want our listeners to take away from today's podcast, what would that be? What is the key takeaway, the only thing they should remember, if they remember only one thing?
I think if you're a business owner out there, and I know you're struggling because that's called business ownership, and things are challenging, and there's ups and downs. You know, that we're constantly fighting the force of average. But I want business owners to remember that the power, actually not the power, the level of success that you're going to reach in business is always going to be based on the level of relationship you have with your customers and your team members. So remember that if you're sitting there and you're like, what do I do the rest of the today? Or I have this sometime today or next week, and where should I pour my time into? Pour it into one of your team members. Spend some time with them. You could talk about work, but maybe don't all talk about work. And try to connect their goals and dreams with the organization's goals. And that will really create some positive forward movement for everyone.
Yeah. Excellent. And on that note, I would like to thank you for the insights that you provided today. I had a lovely time discussing this topic with you. Definitely going to read your book and read Dale Carnegie's again. And thank you so much for your time and for joining us on Beyond Insights.
Thank you so much, Larika. I enjoyed that.
Excellent.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast. Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now. And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast. That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.